And you said, not sure if you want to put this somewhere in the direct examination. I have a feeling they...
Again, it's like gossip. It's like, like gossip, unnecessary bullshit. What about the science, Hank Brennan? What about the science? Like that, all of that just went over your head. You want to hone in on insignificant bullshit? Like, what about the science? Just like with Dr. Marie Russell, what about her science? Like, Hank Brennan is such a dick.
They are going to argue I didn't personally inspect the vehicles. I had enough information from the material I reviewed, so it wasn't necessary. Need to show the jury it doesn't matter in this case. Did you write that?
Yes.
When you're talking about they, I have a feeling they are going to argue I didn't personally inspect the vehicle. Who's they?
That'd be the Commonwealth.
And so when you were writing out these questions as is your routine with the answers, is this the mark of independence to you?
Well, I think, again, whether the Commonwealth asked me that question or the defense asked me that question, my response would be the same. It wouldn't change depending on who called me to testify. There are a number of cases, by the time I get involved, the evidence is gone from the roadway, the vehicle is gone. So it's certainly not necessary to inspect a vehicle. And I wanted the jury to have an understanding that because I didn't physically inspect the vehicle, it didn't affect my analysis in the case.
So you think that
Good job. Good response.
showed independence?
Yes.
Then you also had another question. Would it be fair to say that because you do a lot of nighttime visibility work, your cases frequently involve pedestrians? Remember that?
Yes.
And you said, yes, unfortunately, there is a direct correlation between time of day and pedestrian fatalities. Is that true?
Correct. Yes.
And do they happen more often in the day or at night?
More often at night. Yes.
Statistically speaking, by the way, this case involves nighttime, doesn't it?
Correct.
Statistically speaking, most of pedestrian fatalities occur during the evening and night hours. So my specialty in the area of lighting and human factors results in a lot of my cases involving pedestrians. Did you write that?
Yes.
In fact, you testified, you shared that with the jury, didn't you?
Correct. I've testified to that twice last year as well as this year.
And in the notes that you wrote.
Yeah. Again, where's the fire, Hank Brennan? Where's the big deal here? What's going on? Like, move it on. Like, why isn't Judge Bev controlling her courtroom? Don't answer that. It's rhetorical. Like, she has the power to be like, move it along, Hank Brennan, But no, she wants him to do this to Dr. Wolf, just like she let him do it to Dr. Marie Russell.
When you shared it last year and this year, was it an important point to the jury?
I think so, because it helped gave them an understanding, I think, of my background and lighting and human factors. And as I mentioned earlier today, there's a direct correlation between time of day and pedestrian impacts, right? So my specialty in lighting and human factors results in me seeing many, many different types of pedestrian impacts.
So if it's important, why did you include a note? If you don't want me to say this, that's fine. Why did you include a note to the defense that if they didn't want you to say something that you thought was important, you would leave it out?
Well, I think because I didn't want to confuse the jury about a statistic that just because we have inclement weather and dark lighting conditions, it doesn't automatically equal a pedestrian impact, right? We have to look at the evidence and the damage to the vehicle and the injuries to determine whether or not a collision occurred, not the visibility.
Wonderful response. It couldn't have been any better. Again, deflect the bullshit.
So you weren't trying to mislead the jury, you were trying to help them because they wouldn't understand something that you were trying to explain?
No, Hank Brennan, you have been misleading this jury this entire time. You have been misleading the audience observing the motions hearings this entire time. You've been misleading everybody, not Dr. Wolf.
Is that the way you're phrasing this?
I think at the end of the day, it was to help them understand my background, how it relates to seeing a lot of pedestrian impacts.
Something was important and it helps the jury get to the truth. Why would you offer to leave it out?
Well, I didn't leave it out.
No, but you offered to.
Boom. But he didn't, Hank Brennan. What's your fucking point? Right? He didn't leave it out. He brought it up twice, 3 times now.
You would have if requested. Why did you invite, excuse me, why did you invite somebody else to interject in your independence and guide you to leave something out? Why would you even provide that invitation to them?
Again, it's because I didn't want them to get hung up on a statistic that just because we have more pedestrian impacts at night and in bad weather, that this alleged incident happened at night under bad weather, to give it more weight, to weight the evidence more because of that statistic.
Yeah. So by this point, guys, it's asked and answered. Hank Brennan had better move it along.
Done? Yes.
If you make a mistake in court under oath,
That was filler. That was like he was done like a minute for a minute. It was like 10 seconds, but like it was a delayed question from Hank Brennan. You done? What? It wasn't a sincere question. It was filler. It's like Hank Brennan thinking of his next question and he blurts out, "You done?"
would you take the affirmative step on your own and correct that mistake?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I would do my best to do that, yes.
Well, when you say do your best, would you do that if you became aware of it?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Yes.
Before you testified in the proceeding last year, there was a hearing that you testified in front of Her Honor and other people that were here, correct?
Correct.
I wasn't here.
No.
You were.
Yes.
And you testified about your experience, didn't you?
Correct.
When you were
Yes.
sharing your experience with the court, it was important for the court to have an accurate understanding of what your experience was because it was being evaluated in that hearing, wasn't it?
Correct.
When you testified to the court, you testified that you had been qualified as an expert to testify over 20 times, didn't you?
I don't have the transcript. I believe I said approximately 20 times.
The reality is you hadn't. You'd only testified and been qualified 11 times at that point.
Correct. I misunderstood the question. I thought it also encompassed deposition, so I added those two and approximated at 20.
And at some point when you realized you had made a mistake in your testimony to the court, you had a chance to come back when you testified last year and fix it and clarify the record, didn't you?
Correct, which is why I provided a comment with the specific breakdown for clarification.
And when you came back and testified under oath the second time, on the record, under oath, did you clarify and fix the mistaken testimony that you had provided just days earlier?
I don't recall being asked a question. No.
It wasn't whether you're being asked. The question is, did you take the affirmative step to fix the misstatements under oath that you made?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
Take your vote.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
After your first testimony, you appreciated that you made a statement under oath that was wrong, didn't you?
Yes.
In fact, you made a note. I realized in my testimony I said about 20 times, when you asked how many times I'd been qualified, I misinterpreted your question, which was my fault, but in looking at my D&T list, it's 11 trials, 7 depositions, 18 testimonies total. I'm not sure if you want to clear it up or just leave it. Was it
Correct.
clear?
Yes, sir.
Can you just leave it?
I'm not responsible for asking the question, sir.
That is a really good point. And guys, like 20, 11, again, what about the science, Hank Brennan? Like, just trying to paint Dr. Wolf another credentialed and experienced and established defense witness, trying to paint another defense witness as suspicious, as criminal in nature, as untrustworthy, right? Ignore the science, ignore the pathology, ignore the reconstruction, ignore the engineering, right? Just hone in on these little details to appear suspicious in Hank Brennan's eyes, this psychopath. Like, I swear he's a psychopath. I swear he's a psychopath. I'm not a doctor. I swear Hank Brennan is a psychopath.
Do you ever heard the terms confirmation bias?
Yes.
Do you know what confirmation bias is generally?
Generally, yes.
Do you think that you suffer from any confirmation bias in this case?
No.
Do you have any close family that supports one side over the other? Not the facts of the data, but one side over the other.
Close family?
Yes.
Not that I'm aware.
Fucker. You know, I think Dr. Wolf's wife was part of one group, one free Karen Reed group on Facebook. One, and it wasn't even the official free Karen Reed group, the one that's like over close to 70,000 members now, the one that Nick Rocco started. It wasn't even that group. It was another group, and that group is like full of trolls. So for Hank, this must be where he's going.
Aware of, no.
Wife?
My wife?
Yes.
I don't really know what her thoughts are on the case.
May I approach?
Yes.
He doesn't deserve this. And she doesn't deserve this. Their family does not deserve this. Just for testifying about facts, about science. It's like, hello, Hank Brennan. Everybody knows that Dr. Welcher bullshitted his entire so-called demonstration. Everyone knows that Dr. Welcher just wanted to give you answers that you paid for. Absolutely zero science there. Absolutely zero accident reconstruction there. So what difference does it make? And again, guys, all of the prosecution witnesses all clearly think that Karen Reed did this, or at least they are all lying about Karen Reed doing this because they don't want their friends to get in trouble. Like, everybody on the prosecution side is biased against Karen Reed. They want Karen Reed to get locked up for this. Remember, hopefully she kills herself. That's what they wanted for Karen Reed. They wanted her to kill herself. Who gives a damn what Dr. Wolf's wife thinks about this case? Even if Dr. Wolf knows what his wife is feeling, even if Dr. Wolf is fibbing here, which I'm not sure he is. I don't know him. Like, even if he's fibbing here and he knows exactly what his wife thinks, which is likely that Karen Reed didn't do it, because again, his wife is married to an accident reconstructionist, and she's like, of all people, right? Like, why do you think Karen Reed didn't do it? Because my husband is the accident reconstructionist who proved that she didn't do it. Like, what do you want from me? Right? This is another waste of fucking time.
Take a look at that document. Have you seen that before?
No, I have not.
Never seen that.
No.
Take it back. You're unaware of anything that may influence you to lean one way or another?
Correct.
When you first took a look at some of the facts in this case, you had some information. Since then, you've received a lot more, haven't you?
Correct, yes.
Part of your testimony today to this jury was to provide opinions that you do not think that the holes in Mr. O'Keefe's clothes are consistent with some type of collision. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
In coming to that opinion, you relied on some of your testing that we saw in those videos, didn't you?
Yes.
And that testing involves a hybrid 3-arm, doesn't it?
Correct, yes.
A hybrid 3-arm is an arm from a crash dummy.
Yes.
That's not the technical name, but that's what it's often referred to.
Yes.
And you and Dr. Renshaw have been working together on this case, haven't you?
Yes.
You've discussed ideas and shared thoughts.
Yes.
In fact, you've worked so intimately together, you know some of the things he's going to testify if he comes to testify, you've said many times today, right?
Yes.
And so some of the data that you shared and some of the opinions overlap with each other, wouldn't you say?
Certainly, he's going to rely on a lot of that test data, yes.
When you were forming your opinion about holes in clothes and potential abrasions to somebody's skin, all of those tests, all of those that you did were using a crash test dummy arm, weren't they?
Yes.
In your report, you cite, or Dr. Renshaw cites, 3 different sources regarding testing clothing and skin, correct?
I'm not sure.
Well, haven't you read his report?
I've skimmed it, but I don't know what the basis are for his opinions.
Did you see footnotes 24, 25, 26, 24 being skin tissue cutability and its relation to lacerations, severity indices? Did you read that?
Let's see if there's a foundation.
No, I didn't read that reference.
Did you read 25, the book that is cited, Forensic Pathology, 2nd edition?
I'm going to have you come to sidebar.
We'll watch just a few more, guys. A few more minutes.
Let me again ask you about this book that is cited in Dr. Rensselaer's report. By the way, have you read Dr. Rensselaer's report?
As I mentioned, I skimmed through it.
So in all of your preparation with Dr. Rensselaer, you merely skimmed through his report? You didn't take time to read and study it?
Well, none of my opinions are based on work that he did. He's undertaking a completely separate aspect in the analysis.
But that's not the question. The question I asked you was, did you, in working closely with him, take the time to study his report?
As I mentioned, I skimmed it. I didn't read through, as you mentioned, all the references or what he cited. I didn't do that.
Did you read his report?
I did read the report, yes, but I didn't in depth go through each reference and look at what he was citing.
So you read his report?
Yes.
And when you read his report, did you see there were footnotes for a number of different propositions that he made?
I know that there were footnotes in the report, yes.
Well, on the issue of whether or not crash test dummies should be used during experiments as a basis for an opinion of whether abrasions can happen through cloth or an arm, wouldn't that particularly interest you since you were going to come here and testify about it multiple times in front of this jury?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
You knew you were going to come in here and suggest to the jury that you thought that these tests were inconsistent with causing any type of holes in clothing similar to Mr. O'Keefe's or abrasions on his arm. You knew that was going to be part of your opinion today, yes?
Yes,
And
yes.
as part of forming a valid opinion that people can rely upon, wouldn't you want to do as much study as possible on the background for that opinion before you give it to a jury?
I suppose, yes.
Well, you suppose. Don't you think if you come in here as an expert, the jury...
It's a non-argument First of all, guys, Hank Brennan is relying on Dr. Rentschler's report, and he's giving Dr. Wolf shit for not having an in-depth understanding of Dr. Rentschler's report. Like, they're doing two entirely different segments of the testing here. Again, Dr. Rentschler is the biomechanical engineer, and Dr. Wolf is the engineer, the accident reconstructionist. He's about the mechanical aspect, right? Like, we all heard how informed he is about the components of that taillight. That's what he does. So for Hank Brennan to give Dr. Wolf shit for not like knowing Dr. Rentschler's report like the back of his hand is a non-argument. What does it fucking matter? And again, guys, what has Dr. Wolf's testimony mainly consisted of? The engineering, right? The reconstruction, the mechanical aspects, you know, not the human aspects. Not that, again, that's Dr. Rentschler's job. Non-argument, total waste of time. Like, why doesn't Hank Brennan ask Dr. Rentschler these questions?
Jury is relying on your background and education.
Yes.
And they're relying on the fact that you're representing something definitively or with an opinion to a reasonable degree of certainty. You understand that, right?
Yes.
And don't you think when you do that, that it's important that you have proper study and foundation before you just come into court and give an opinion?
Well, I will note that the ATD crash dummy is a generally accepted test device to use for not only assessing occupant forces in motor vehicle crashes, but also to assess impact forces. So that the use of that device is certainly generally accepted.
When you get uncomfortable with my question, you generally tend to answer a different question.
Sustain, Mr. Brennan. Next question.
Oh, that's the strike.
Strike that, Jules.
Let me ask you again. Don't you think, as an expert, it's important when you come
This is really good for the defense that Hank Brennan is showing how uncontrollable he is, even for Judge Bev, to make her repeat herself. You know, any other judge would scold his ass. But because she's friends with Michael Morrissey and clearly friends with the McCabe's and the Alberts and totally in defensive of Lieutenant Fanning, you know, when he was supervising the jury last time, you know, she's not going to scold Hank Brennan in front of everybody. But ridiculous here, right? That she can't control her own courtroom because the corruption runs that deep.
come in,
And it's really good for the jury to see that Hank Brennan is indeed the villain.
you're going to present an opinion based on science or engineering or whatever you want to do, that you study the basis for that opinion before you give it.
Yes.